This is a video about a rocket stove that I have made. It's a prototype out of an ammunition can that I bought at Canton, Texas. And I wanted to start with showing the isometric drawing here that I did in Delta CAD, CAD system I've got, software that I use on my laptop. I draw the isometric view just for concept drawing, and then fill it in with pretty colors just to think it out, how I want to make this. And, I used the CAD system only for making this drawing. I did not this time use it for the detailed drawings of dimensions and so forth. I did that the old-fashioned way, using a pencil and paper, which you see here. I took graph paper, and each one of these squares represents 1 inch. And I drew a side view of it. This represents the ammo can dimensions, and from a side view. And then inside the ammo can, I would build a firebox, and it will be 1 inch up off the bottom, so that the bottom won't get so hot. I'm going to be putting sand, as you can see. This chamber will be filled with sand later to insulate the firebox, and try to make it so that you can set this on a table, a wooden table, for example, and it not to get too hot, burn the table. Okay, anyway, this is I built it with an angled firebox so that the wood would stay inside when you're burning it, and the fuel won't fall back out, because the coals and ash begin to build up in the back, and slowly your sticks are suddenly angled the wrong direction and begin to fall out. So anyway, the angle works pretty good. I chose an 8 degree for this prototype. I'm going to increase that to probably 10 degrees later in the next one I make, because it doesn't seem to be like the best angle. I could use a little more angle, so I can pitch this upward another couple degrees and make it a little steeper. I was going to put a door on the front of it, held shut by a magnet or something, so I could store something inside the firebox. But I got to thinking about that. That's going to be all full of soot and stuff, and I really wouldn't want to store anything in there. It would just get dirty, so I ignore that and just leave this open, as you'll see in the finished product. There's a storage compartment in the back. I divide the ammo can into 2 chambers. This back chamber is for storing the chimney extension and the pot rest. The pot rest, I originally had it designed to be 2.5 inches thick, but I realized it didn't have to be that thick, so I went with an 1.5 inches instead on that, so it's not like it's drawn here. But this clearance of 1 inch here was necessary to have a good flow up the chimney and out. You don't want to restrict the airflow here. You want it to be the same as the square inches of the chimney, so I put a 1 inch opening all the way around, so that plenty of circulation, air comes in and out, and it burns very efficiently. Doing this the old-fashioned way, you have to come up with dimensions for all of this, and I had to use some trigonometry. Indian Chief Sokotoa always comes in handy when you're trying to figure angles and dimensions, and so I figured all this up by hand and on this piece of paper, and then was ready to build it. So let's get started. I started with an ammo can that I bought for $5. I think that I paid $5 for this one. Last time I was at Canton, they're $8 now for the ammo can. And I started by on the hinge end, I drilled 4 holes, and then took a jigsaw with a metal cutting blade and cut out a 3 by 3 inch hole, knowing that because of the 8 degree angle, I needed this to be almost 2 inches up from the bottom. So that's about 2 inches up, just a little under inch and 31/32, I think it was. So I cut that hole in it as step number 1. The ammo can dimensions are 11 by 6 3/4 by 5 3/4. So it's 5 3/4 across, 6 3/4 deep, and then 11 inches long. That's the inside dimensions, basically. And then the next thing I did was to cut me a piece of sheet metal that I had in the shop, just poked it in here and tack welded it in place. This is going to separate the two chambers. This one will just be for storage of the chimney extension, the pot rest piece, and also fire starting paraphernalia like cotton balls and Vaseline for getting the fire started, and a striker, matches, lighter, maybe even as the chimney is stored in this part, this chimney extension, I'll maybe even put some sticks in here, because the fuel for this is going to be just little sticks you find, which are pretty easy to find anywhere. The front chamber being the rocket stove chamber. Once the rocket stove part is in place, I'll fill this with sand to insulate it. So the lid is very easily removed. It's just a hinge that you just slide it right off the hinge and set it apart. So it removes very easily. And this way I can put it back on, clamp everything shut. It keeps the rain out of it, and the tinder stays dry, because this has got a seal, a rubber seal around the inside of this lid, and it clamps right down. Everything stays put. Okay, so we have the next view. It says I'll begin the process here with the next step was to make this chimney extension. It's 4 inches tall by 3 inches wide. That's the inside dimension, 3 and 4 inches tall. So I cut, the material I bought was 3 inches wide, and I think it's 24 inches long. So I just cut solid pieces off of it and made the chimney extension first thing. So I clamped these to a 4x4 and then run a bead of weld down them. Clamp the next two to the 4x4 and run a bead of weld down them. Then I cut me a piece of wood to hold between them, to hold them apart, clamped it there, and then I ran the bead of weld down these two sides to make it join together. So that completed the chimney extension. Then I started the firebox. This is the bottom of the firebox, and this is the right side of the firebox. And so these two did them the same way, clamping them. I'll show a picture of that in a moment. I clamped these onto a 4x4 and then ran that bead of weld down there to hold those two together. And then here it is on the 4x4. I took clamps, simply clamped it to this 4x4, put my ground clamp on here, and then run a bead of weld. The weld's not real pretty. I've kind of lost that skill and had to learn it back, how to run a bead of weld. And so it still didn't look a lot splattered, didn't look too good, but it held for sure. The ends of this are cut on 8 degrees, because this will be pitching back down from the opening at the front down to the back by 8 degrees. So these ends are parallel with each other on 8 degrees. I'll show more about that in another picture. Right here it is, the completed firebox, and here's the chimney extension behind it. Now, again, the inside dimensions are 3x3. So this leaves, since these are 3 inches wide, that leaves a little place for the bead of weld to go where the two meet. And so after welding the firebox all together, leaving this opening here is for the chimney, and this piece on the back will be part of the chimney, be one long piece, and it will be hanging down by 1 inch to hold this up off the floor of the ammo can by 1 inch, so allow insulation to get underneath it. Right here we're welding the 2 more pieces of the chimney together. This is the firebox back side, and this will be the bottom end. This part will touch the ammo can, and the firebox will be attached here. And this is the right side of the chimney. And this is on the front of the chimney, 2 inches here, and then this one's cut on a taper. So we've got the left side and the front side of the firebox over the chimney. And here I'm welding. I had cut this board to exactly 3 inches so I could clamp the two together, and then I run the bead of weld to put the two, hold them together, and that completes the assembly of the chimney. And here it is after it's all welded up. can't see it from this angle, but that does hang down about an inch below the firebox, so it touches the bottom of the can and keeps it up off there. So this will be the front end, which is where you load the wood in, and the chimney extension will set up on top of this. Right, as a view from the inside the box, I just set the firebox inside here. You can see the chimney extension stored in the back storage area. Again, this area is going to be filled with sand all around this and covering the top of this, all up underneath for insulation. Here we have another view of the firebox with the firebox and chimney extension in place. So I just set the chimney extension on top. There's two plates a plate that's welded here inside this chimney, and it extends down inside this one to hold the two together so that doesn't fall off. And it's as wide as or actually they're on the front, they're on the side. I'm pointing to the front. They're on the side, on each side, and they just set down in there. So this keeps that from falling off. It gives the stability. And then you have the firebox. The firebox will stick out slightly beyond the ammo can. And it gives me a place to weld and hold it in place. All right, here I've got the chimney extension and the two pieces I'll use for the pot rest. You can see I've cut a notch in them so that they go together like a plus sign. And
it's 4 o'clock.
I cut some grooves in here for it to rest in, and you'll see that symboled here. And there they are put together. You got the chimney extension and the pot rest, and that all set up on top of this. As of this right here, I don't have the pieces welded in here that go down into the chimney to hold it in place. And here they are completed. You got the firebox and the chimney extension, pot rest. Back is the chamber where these pot rest and the chimney extension will be stored. And then this again will be all filled with sand. Okay, and there they are stored back in the back. There's plenty of room to put sticks in here if you want to carry some fuel around when you carry in these places. Also in this side of the compartment here, I put a couple of bottles of cotton balls that are saturated in Vaseline to use for fire starter. And here I've put sand. I bought a bag of sand at Walmart and just poured it in here. This is coarse, fairly coarse sand, and packed it down in there good. Made sure it all went up underneath the firebox, and then filled this all up and packed it in there real good and tight to try to use for insulation. You can see the storage back there does not have sand in that area. So if you want to just dump this out, and when you go place, you can fill it with dirt if you don't want to carry the weight around. But it didn't add that much more weight. The whole thing still weighs about 20 pounds, which is not too horribly bad. And so I'm just going to leave the sand in this one, this prototype, and play with it and use it, see how it works. And here we've got it assembled, ready to be used. The back chamber's empty. It's got the pot rest and chimney extension on it, and the sand. Everything's ready to get. Remember, the firebox is on the hinge end. Very important, because the other end has got the latch for holding it shut. Right here is put in use. I built a fire in here. I just took a tin can, put about a quart of water in it. This is a large can. Put a quart of water in it just for the test, and built the fire into it. I set it on a cement block. I didn't know how hot this was going to get, so I didn't want to test it on a wooden picnic table or something, because I didn't know if it would scorch it or something. So I said until I knew how much heat was going to transfer through that sand and affect the outside of the box, I wasn't going to do that. Now it did get hot, too hot to touch or handle, but not hot enough to burn wood. It wouldn't have scorched a picnic table, so it would do just fine on a picnic table. And here's a view you can see up in the firebox. Get a good flow of air, and there's no smoke. It's very efficient. It takes very little fuel to boil the water. Just a couple of handfuls of sticks, and I brought this to a rolling boil. I show a video of that here in a moment. This is the sand I used. It's patio paving sand is what this was called, and it was coarser sand than that which is for a sandbox. And I thought the coarser sand would probably be better for insulator. And here's the last picture of the thing. I've got the fire dying down, the water's already been boiled, and then I just let it sit there for a few hours, let it cool, because it was a little too hot to pick up barehanded. So, so I got it, and it works well. After everything cooled off, I disassembled it, put everything back in there, and put the lid on it, locked it shut, emptied the ashes out of it, and it's ready to travel and go and use whenever I need it. Okay, I'll be showing a video next of the thing. Let you enjoy that. Once you get going, I think it'll stop smoking. It usually does. I took an ammo can, an ammunition can. I removed the lid, built a extension for the chimney that stores in the back, and then I made a cross piece for a pot holder that also comes apart and stores in the back. And then the firebox is just here on the end. It's insulated with sand so that hopefully the sides won't get hot, and it'll help focus that heat and get the fire going. Good. We've got about a quart of water. The idea was for the sand, I was hoping that it would keep the outside of the box cool enough to set it on a wooden table and it wouldn't burn the table. And then also the insulating. The firebox would make more of the heat directed towards the less heat loss out the side, and all of it go towards the food you're cooking. So. I set this distance here to be 1 inch so that you get plenty of airflow, not restricting the chimney. So the square inches of surface of all the way around allows maximum airflow out the chimney. Good rolling boil. Good rolling boil now. That took about 20 minutes or so.